Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvajakacharya Asatar Sata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sko Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Dwarka Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Yamuna Mai Ki Jai, Srimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda So reading from the teachings of Lord Chaitanya by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, Rupa Goswami and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are in Prayag, Allahabad. You know, it's also been called. And I think just recently, the past year or two, you know, the government of India, you know, they changed the name of Allahabad to Prayagraj, which is interesting. Actually, that was the name of Prabhupada's eldest son as well. And of course, Srila Prabhupada had in Prayag, Allahabad, he had one of his pharmacies. And it's also famous as the place where they have the Kumbh Melas. Has everybody been to Allahabad Kumbh Mela? No? Yeah, a few years ago, the Bhaktivedanta Institute had a conference in Allahabad. So I went to that. And I got to go to the Triveni, the place where the three rivers, the Ganga, the Yamuna, which are visible, and the Saraswati, which is not visible at the present moment, come together there. And you know, that's the place where the Kumbh Melas are held. And but the place where Lord Chaitanya is giving his instructions to Rupa Goswami is a place called Dash Ashvamedha Ghat. So we've gotten to the point where the Lord begins to speak about the nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I'll begin reading. The Supreme Lord is cognizant and all-powerful, and by His causeless mercy, He empowers a living entity to receive his mercy. People in general, being under the spell of conditioned life, are averse to rendering devotional service and practicing Krishna consciousness. They are unaware of the teachings of Krishna consciousness, which reveal one's eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the process by which one can return to the spiritual world, and the ultimate goal of life, which is to return home back to Godhead. Because these things are unknown to the conditioned soul, Lord Chaitanya, out of his causeless mercy, instructed Rupa Goswami in the principle of devotional service. Later, Rupa Goswami distributed this science to the people in general. So Rupa Goswami is such an important personality in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. And we are known as Rupa Nugas because we consider the Gaudiya Vaishnavas to be following in the footsteps of Rupa Goswami. Continuing. In the prologue to the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 112, Rupa Goswami describes Lord Chaitanya as follows. Hridi yasya preranaya pravartito ham varaka rupo pi tasya hare pada kamalam vande Chaitanya devasya. Quote, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya Dev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he's inspired me with the desire in my heart to write something about devotional service. For this reason, I am writing this book on the science of devotion, known as the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Beginning his 10 days of continued instruction to Rupa Goswami, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, My dear Rupa, the science of devotional service is just like a great ocean, so it is not possible to show you its entire length and breadth, but I shall try to explain the nature of that ocean by taking just one drop out of it. In this way, you can taste it and understand what that ocean of devotional service actually is. The Lord then explained that within this Brahmanda, or universe, there are innumerable living entities who, according to their own fruitive activities, are transmigrating from one species of life to another, and from one planet to another. In this way, their engagement in material existence has continued since time immemorial. In actuality, these living entities are atomic parts and parcels of the Supreme Spirit. It is said in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad that the length and breadth of the individual soul is 1/10,000th part of the tip of a hair. The atomic magnitude of the living entity is confirmed in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 11:16-11, and in the 10th canto, 10:87-30. Sanandana Kumar, while performing a great sacrifice, quotes the following statement by the personified Vedas. O Supreme Truth, if the living entities were not infinitesimal sparks of the Supreme Spirit, Each minute spark would be all-pervading and could not be controlled by a superior power. But if the living entity is accepted as a minute part and parcel of this Supreme Lord, one can automatically understand how he is controlled by the supreme power. The latter is his actual constitutional position. And if he remains in this position, he can attain full freedom. If one mistakenly considers his constitutional position equal to that of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he becomes contaminated by the doctrine of non-duality, and his efforts in transcendental life are rendered ineffective. So, therefore, we see in Srila Prabhupada's pranam mantras, one of them, we learn his mission is Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtita Deshatarane. That his purpose is to deliver, the Western world from the evils of impersonalism and voidism. These are very common responses of the conditioned souls to the conditions of the material world. They want to extinguish themselves, either by merging into the Brahman or by just making everything nothing. So it's very common, and I've found that in my dealings, speaking with people or corresponding with them by email, even if they're attracted to Krishna and a little bit, you have to help them sort through their previous experience with impersonalism or voidism, through contact with Buddhists or representatives of the different Advaita monistic impersonalist philosophies. So this is something that Lord Chaitanya is asking Rupa Goswami to do, to explain things properly. Lord Chaitanya continued his teachings by pointing out that there are two kinds of living entities, the eternally liberated and the eternally conditioned. The eternally conditioned living entities can be divided into two types, the moving and the non-moving. Those that remain in one place, trees, for example, are classified as stavara, or non-moving entities. And those that move, such as birds and beasts, are called jangama, or moving entities. The moving entities are further divided into three categories: those that fly in the sky, those that swim in the water, and those that walk on the land. Out of the many millions and trillions of living entities on land, human beings are very few. Out of that small number of human beings, most are totally ignorant of the spiritual science. Most are totally ignorant of the spiritual science, are unclean in their habits, and have no faith in the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In short, most human beings live like animals. Therefore, these can be deduced from, deducted. Okay, therefore, these can be deducted from the number of human beings that constitute civilized human societies. We can hardly find any human being who believe in the Vedic scriptures and the existence of God, or even in proper behavior. Those who do believe in these things and in advancing in spiritual life are known as Aryans. Out of these who believe in the scriptures and the advancement of human civilization, there are two classes, the righteous and the unrighteous. Those who are righteous generally exercise fruitive activities to derive some good result for sense gratification. Out of many such persons who engage in righteous activities for sense gratification, only a few come to know about the absolute truth. These are called jnanis, empiric philosophers in search of the absolute truth. Out of many hundreds and thousands of such empiric philosophers, only a handful actually attain liberation. When one is liberated, he theoretically understands that the living entity is not composed of material elements, but is spirit soul, distinct from matter. Simply by understanding this doctrine, even theoretically, one qualifies as a mukta, or liberated soul. But the actual mukta is he who understands his constitutional position as part and parcel of the Lord and as the eternal servant. Such liberated souls engage with faith and devotion in the service of the Lord, and they are called Krishna Bhaktas, or Krishna conscious persons. So, we can see how, Srila Prabhupada has established this movement, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and provided us with this extremely valuable literature so that we can become muktas, the real muktas. Muktir, I forgot the verse. Muktir hitvanyata rupam swarupena vigastati. The real meaning of liberation is that one gives up all false identities and comes to understand one's swarupa, one's eternal spiritual form, one's constitutional position. And that is that swarupa, Lord Chaitanya explains elsewhere, Jivara Swarupa Hoy Krishnera Nityadas. So Lord Chaitanya is repeating something here that Krishna also explains in the Bhagavad Gita, that out of many thousands of people, only a few are interested in the absolute truth, and out of them, only a very few ever come to him. So we can see that all around us, that there are many, many people who are just completely absorbed in their lives of sense gratification, and they have no clue that they are not these material bodies. So, especially for them, Lord Chaitanya has come, and he's known as Patita Pavana. So he's making Krishna consciousness easily available through this process of hearing, chanting, dancing, feasting. It's Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. Krishna bhaktas are free from all material desires. Although those who are theoretically liberated by knowing that the living entity is not material may be classified among the liberated souls, they still have desires. Their main desire is to become one with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such persons are very much attached to performing Vedic rituals and righteous activities in order to enjoy material prosperity. Even when some of them transcend material enjoyment, they still try to enjoy in the spiritual world by merging into the existence of the Supreme Lord. Some of them also desire to attain mystic powers through the execution of yoga. As long as any of these desires are within a person's heart, he cannot understand the nature of pure devotional service. And on account of constantly being agitated by such desires, he is not peaceful. Indeed, as long as there is any desire for material perfection at all, one cannot be at peace. Since the devotees of Lord Krishna do not desire anything material, they are the only peaceful persons within the material world. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 6.14.5. Muktanam api siddhanam narayana parayanaha sudurlabha prashantatma kotishvapi mahamune. O great sage, out of many millions of liberated persons and persons who have achieved success in mystic yoga, it is very rare to find one who is completely devoted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is therefore filled with peace. So, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna presents the actual peace formula. It's to recognize that everything actually is the property of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. And to understand that every living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and that our only purpose in life is to engage in transcendental loving service to that Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, I'll stop there. Does anybody have any comments or question? Slavas Prabhu.
So, we heard from this that Prabhupada says that the living entities in the material world that have desires, those entities they're never peaceful, never happy. So, and then he says that a devotee never wants anything. He has no desires.
Material
desires, yeah. So, how do you count that, for instance, like the Pandavas, they were pure devotees of the Lord. They gave everything. But how is it that we read that they suffered so much? There must have been some anxiety, and although they were pure devotees and they had Krishna as their association, still we saw all the things that they had to go through. They, Draupadi, and then losing their kingdom, and house of lack. So, on and on and on. And we have Prahlad Maharaj, who his father, Hiranyakashipu, and tried to kill him in so many ways. So, it seems to me that the pure devotees of the Lord, they really suffer a lot. And they don't even have any material desires. So, can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, it's to really, I was reading recently, I think it was in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, where it's explained that to purify something, the fire is required. You may have some metal that's tarnished, and you can try to scrub it and clean it with water and different things, but but if you have fire and you melt the metal and just drive all the impurities out of it, then that actually does it. So I'm speaking more from our perspective than theirs. So Krishna, in his pastimes, is trying to give instruction, to the conditioned souls who need it. So, just like Arjuna, he is Krishna's eternal associate, but he appears to be in doubt and anxiety on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, anticipating all these things that may happen like that. But why is he doing that? It's part of Krishna's plan to instruct us that on the path of devotional service, yes, we may have to confront opposition, we may have to confront so many difficulties, and that is part of the purification process, that by that process of confronting the difficulties, pushing on even in the face of opposition, that purifies our soul. So those kinds of examples are there in the pastimes of these great personalities. And for our benefit, they're recorded in, the Srimad Bhagavatam and so many other things. So it's part of Krishna's plan. Something else? Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai.